The twin suns of Veiltor burned high above the alien city, painting its glass towers in silver light. The streets shimmered with polished metal, floating trams, and banners of the Veiltor Dominion, one of the most powerful empires in this region of space. Among those towers, at the lowest level where dust and shadow met, walked a human girl named Lyra. Humans were rare here. Most had no rights, no homes, and no voice. They cleaned the towers, fixed machines, and served food. When Lyra walked through the crowded market, aliens stared with amusement, some with disgust. Her clothes were simple, a grey jacket, rough boots, and a scarf faded from sun and travel. Her eyes, however, held something different, calm and quiet strength, the kind that made even the loudest voice lower for a second before mocking her again. The market was full of noise, traders shouting, engines humming, creatures bargaining in a dozen languages. But Lyra didn't stop for the colors or the smells. She moved with purpose, carrying a small satchel of fruit and bread. Then she saw him. An old alien beggar sat near a broken pillar, his scales dull and cracked, his breathing weak. Everyone passed him as if he didn't exist. A few children threw bits of metal at him and laughed. The beggar whispered something faint, words no one cared to hear, but Lyra did. She knelt beside him without hesitation, ignoring the disgusted looks around her. From her bag she took out bread and poured water into his shaking hands. "Here," she said softly. "Eat slowly." The beggar blinked, his eyes cloudy. "Folks are human," he rasped. Lyra smiled. "Yes." He studied her face for a moment, then whispered, "Strange. Your kind used to command fleets. Now you give water to strangers." Lyra only nodded. "Maybe that's the better way to rule." Around them the market went quiet. An alien merchant leaned over his stall. "Look at that, one of the human pets feeding filth." Another laughed. "She thinks kindness will make her noble." Their laughter spread. Even the guards at the corner chuckled. Lyra said nothing. She helped the beggar drink until his shaking slowed. Her hands glowed faintly in the sunlight, a shimmer quick and almost invisible. The beggar's eyes widened as warmth spread through him. "What did you—" he began, but a sharp voice cut through the air. "Step away." Two Veiltor guards marched forward, tall and gleaming in silver armor. The market crowd moved aside quickly. One guard sneered. "Human, what are you doing with that refuse?" "Helping him," Lyra said simply. The other guard laughed. "Helping? You waste food meant for your masters. Do you think mercy makes you equal?" Lyra met his eyes. "No, it makes me human." The laughter faded a little. The guard frowned, raising his staff. "Careful, girl." Before he could strike, the old beggar spoke weakly. "She bears the mark." Both guards turned. "What mark?" But the beggar had already fallen unconscious, his breathing steady now, his skin slowly returning to color. The guards looked confused, then suspicious. "Come with us. The council will question you." Lyra stood up slowly, brushing dust from her jacket. "If you wish." As she walked past the stunned crowd, something strange happened. The lights along the street flickered. The city's power grid stuttered for just a second. Machines nearby made soft mechanical clicks, as if bowing. High above, inside a surveillance tower, a Veiltor officer frowned at the readings. "Strange," he muttered. "Sector 12 energy fluctuation detected. Origin, human presence." He replayed the feed from the market. The camera zoomed on the girl's face. Her calm eyes, the faint golden shimmer around her hands. The officer's tendrils twitched uneasily. "No, that can't be right." He sent the data upward through encrypted channels until it reached the Dominion's central AI core, the Citadel net. And deep inside that ancient system, something woke up. A symbol long unseen blinked on a hidden screen. Royal DNA signature detected. Designation Lyra Solon, status air confirmed. Down in the market, Lyra had no idea what had just begun. The guards led her through the crowd. Some aliens still laughed, others whispered. A few stared at her in strange silence. One merchant muttered, "Humans always pretending to be heroes." Another replied, "Yes, but sometimes heroes don't pretend." When the patrol transport lifted off, the old beggar opened his eyes again. He looked to the sky where the ship disappeared into the towers. He whispered through cracked lips, "She returned. The bloodline lives." His voice trembled with both awe and fear. "May the stars protect us all." Far above the glittering city, Hidden satellites began to recalibrate their orbit, ancient Earth technology buried and forgotten under alien control. Each satellite blinked once, then twice, then aligned toward Veiltor. A silent transmission spread across the void. Command signal restored, awaiting royal directive. And in a holding cell high within the Dominion Tower, Lyra sat calmly under a single light. Her hands rested on her knees, her eyes closed, her breathing steady. Outside, the guards whispered, "She doesn't look dangerous." Another replied, "Then why are the lights dimming every time she sighs?" The galaxy didn't know it yet. But the girl they mocked, the servant they insulted, the human who gave bread to a beggar, was about to wake an empire the stars had long forgotten. The city of Veiltor shone like a jewel against the dark sky. But inside its silver towers, whispers spread faster than light. Everyone had heard the story by now, the foolish human girl who fed a beggar in the market. They said she had cried. They said she had bowed before filth. They said she had embarrassed her kind. By dawn, Lyra's name was being spoken with laughter across the alien capital. Inside a tall spire near the upper levels, Councillor Vansel, a proud alien noble with 4 golden eyes and silver skin, watched the footage from the market again. The image of the girl kneeling beside the beggar filled the hollow screen. Her calm eyes, her simple scarf, nothing about her suggested power. Yet when she touched the beggar, the lights around her had flickered. He leaned forward, uneasy. "Run it again," the technician obeyed. The golden shimmer returned, faint but real. Vansel frowned. "That shouldn't be possible. Humans have no energy field, no biosignal resonance. They are animals," the technician hesitated. "Perhaps, my lord, unless she isn't ordinary." "Silence," snapped Vansel, but inside he felt something he hadn't felt in years, fear. Down below, Lyra sat quietly in a holding cell. The metallic room hummed with the faint rhythm of the city's energy core. 2 guards stood outside, whispering to each other. "She looks so calm," one said. "Too calm," replied the other. "Like she knows something we don't." Lyra opened her eyes. "Do you two enjoy gossiping?" Both guards jumped. Her tone wasn't harsh, just steady, commanding. "Apologies," one muttered. "We meant no—" "It's fine," she interrupted gently. "You're only doing your job." The younger guard blinked. "You're not afraid?" Lyra smiled. "Of what?" He didn't know how to answer. Later that morning, the cell doors opened with a hiss. 2 officers entered, one carrying a silver chain. "By order of the Dominion Council," said the taller one, "you will appear before the nobles to explain your actions." "Explain helping someone?" Lyra asked softly. The officer sneered. "Explain why a beggar's pulse readings matched energy bursts across the entire city grid." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "Then I suppose your city is more fragile than it appears." They didn't reply. The chains locked around her wrists, more for show than necessity, and she was led through long corridors lined with alien guards and curious onlookers. Some aliens pointed. Others whispered. A few spat on the floor as she passed. Yet Lyra walked with quiet grace, her eyes forward, her steps steady. She looked more like someone entering a ceremony than a trial. Inside the council hall, hundreds of alien nobles gathered around a circular platform. The walls shimmered with banners of power, the golden crest of the Veiltor Dominion. When Lyra was brought to the center, laughter erupted immediately. "There she is," shouted one noble. "The little savior of beggars." Another chuckled. "Perhaps she'll start a charity for the filthy soon." Even the councillor's aides smirked. Vansel raised a hand. "Let her speak." "We could all use some amusement today." Lyra looked up at the towering figures around her. "Why are you angry that someone didn't die?" The hall went silent for a second. Then laughter again. "Because, human," Vansel said, "our empire was not built on weakness. We survive by strength. Pity feeds decay." Lyra met his eyes. "And strength without mercy is rot." His expression hardened. "You dare insult the Dominion?" "No," she said calmly. "I describe it." Gasps rippled through the crowd. High above the chamber, Zerath, a quiet alien scientist assigned to monitor energy readings, observed everything from a control deck. He wasn't laughing. He had studied the recordings, analyzed the anomalies, and what he found made no sense. The signal that burst from the market had a human frequency signature, but not just any human. It matched a pattern found only once before, in ancient Forbidden Archives, the Royal Earth Command Network, the same code that once activated planetary defense fleets during the human dominion's Age of Rule. If the girl carried that signal, Zerath's throat went dry. He activated a secure link to his private datapad. "Begin silent analysis," he whispered. "Subject Lyra Solon." Back in the hall, Vangsel smirked. "Tell me, human girl, what makes your kind think mercy has power?" Lyra's voice was steady. "Because mercy builds what fear cannot." Her words seemed simple, but something in them stirred the air. The chamber lights dimmed for a second. The holographic displays flickered. Vangsel's aides looked around nervously. "My lord, the systems—" "Silence," Vangsel barked. "This is a trick." But Lyra hadn't moved. She stood quietly, her hands clasped in front of her. When the light stabilized, every noble in the hall stared at her differently, unease mixed with fascination. Later that night, Lyra was escorted back to her cell. But as she passed a group of alien servants cleaning the floors, one of them whispered, "Why did you help that beggar?" Lyra stopped. "Because no one else would." The alien servant hesitated, then whispered, "They'll hurt you for it." Lyra smiled faintly. "They already did worse to my people long ago. We survived that too." Her voice was quiet but unshaken, like a whisper from a storm. When the guards closed her cell door, she sat down on the floor and looked up at the small window showing the stars. They were the same stars her ancestors once ruled under, the same stars that watched Earth burn. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she whispered to herself, "They think kindness is weakness. They'll learn it's the reason we're still alive." Far above Veiltor in orbit, an ancient human satellite came online for the first time in 500 years. Its sensors locked onto the city. Its old AI voice spoke softly into the void. "Signal verified. Royal frequency active. Awaiting command from the bloodline of Earth." The night over Veiltor was unnaturally quiet. The silver towers, usually glowing with light, flickered now and then like the city itself was holding its breath. Inside the science tower, Zerath sat alone at his console, eyes fixed on the holographic screen. He had replayed the same data sequence 100 times already, the energy burst that came from the human girl, Lyra. Each time the reading stayed the same. Unstable, ancient, human. He whispered to himself, "Impossible. These codes are extinct." Zerath had studied galactic archives for decades. The human dominion had fallen 500 years ago, its homeworld burned, its fleets scattered. Every empire since then had mocked humanity as a forgotten people, a primitive species that once tried to rule the stars and failed. But this signal, it carried an encryption pattern he recognized from forbidden records. It was called Royal Command Level Alpha, the code of Earth's sovereign line. He pulled open a hidden drawer and activated an old black terminal, illegal pre-Dominion technology. The system whirred to life, displaying a warning. "Accessing classified data, ancient human networks, level Omega." Zerath typed quickly, matching the genetic markers from Lyra's blood sample, taken secretly during her arrest, to the ancient registry. A loading bar crawled slowly across the screen. Then the result appeared. Match found. Designation, Lyra Solon. Status, heir to the throne of the human dominion. Clearance, Supreme Command Authority. Zerath leaned back, his four eyes wide with shock. His hands trembled. She's not a servant. She's their lost queen. Meanwhile, far below in her dimly lit cell, Lyra sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed. She could feel something, an echo beneath her skin, a faint pulse. Every few minutes, a small flicker of golden light danced across her palms. She didn't understand it, but it felt familiar, like a voice calling from the stars. She whispered softly, "What are you trying to show me?" The lights above her flickered in answer. Across the city, alarms began to ring in the Dominion control tower. Power fluctuations spread from the market sector to the upper spires. Machines restarted on their own, dormant systems booted up for no reason. One technician shouted, "Sir, there's a broadcast loop repeating through every channel." The commander frowned. "Show me." The hologram flickered, and a human symbol appeared on the main display, a golden circle with wings of light. Royal System Online, awaiting bloodline authorization. Every Veltor officer froze. None of them had seen that symbol before, but their ancestors had. It was the mark of Earth's reign, from the time when humanity ruled the stars through fear and respect. Zerath's communicator buzzed violently. "Scientist Zerath," a voice demanded, "explain this disturbance. The Dominion core is reacting to human signals." Zerath hesitated. "It's not the humans, my lord. It's one human." "What do you mean?" "She's activating systems older than your empire itself." In her cell, Lyra suddenly gasped as pain shot through her mind, then vision. She saw flashes of another life, a vast throne room. Armored humans standing proud. A woman who looked like her standing beside a banner of blue and gold. The woman's voice echoed. "When they forget who we were, remind them what mercy can do." Lyra's breath quickened. "Mother?" she whispered. The vision faded. She fell forward, her hand touching the cold metal floor, and the entire building shook. The guards outside screamed as the lights exploded in a burst of golden energy. The metal chains around Lyra's wrists snapped apart like thin paper. The door to her cell slid open by itself. At that exact moment, Zerath burst into the corridor, datapad in hand, shouting to the guards, "Don't touch her!" They aimed their weapons anyway. "She's dangerous." Zerath raised his hands. "You don't understand. She's not attacking you. The systems are responding to her." Lyra stepped out of the cell. Her hair lifted slightly, as if carried by invisible wind. Her eyes glowed faintly gold. "Who are you?" one guard demanded. Lyra looked at him softly. "Someone your world forgot." The hallway alarms blared. On every screen across the city, new messages began to appear. Ancient human script mixed with alien code. Network restoration in progress. Royal Command access detected. Waking protocol Dawnfire. Varnzel, sitting in his high tower, slammed his fist against the table. "Shut it down, disconnect the system." But no one could. The Dominion Central AI ignored their commands. It now answered only to one frequency, Lyra's. Zerath stood trembling as Lyra passed him. The air around her hummed with quiet power, but her face showed no pride, only confusion. He whispered, "Your Majesty." She turned. "Why do you call me that?" He swallowed hard. "Because that's what you are. The blood of the Earth Queens flows in you. The code in your veins can awaken entire fleets." Lyra stared at him, disbelief in her voice. "Earth fell centuries ago." Zerath nodded slowly. "Yes, but its legacy didn't. It hid in your bloodline, waiting for the day you'd be found." Lyra took a deep breath. "Then it wasn't kindness that woke it." "No," said Zerath quietly. "It was compassion." She looked down at her hands, faint light swirling across her skin. Then maybe that's what they feared most. Zerath lowered his head, and maybe it's what will save them now. Above the city, the first ancient satellite turned fully toward Vaeltor, its dormant engines reactivated, then another, and another. Soon, hundreds of human ships buried across forgotten systems began to receive the same signal. Command authority reinstated. Air confirmed, Lyra Solon. And down below, standing in the middle of the corridor, Lyra whispered softly to herself, "If this power truly belongs to me, then I'll use it to protect, not rule." The lights dimmed again, then steadied. The storm had begun. The morning came with golden light, but the city of Vaeltor felt cold. Rumors spread like wildfire. They said the human girl from the market had broken free. They said the lights bent toward her. They said she spoke with the voice of old machines. None of it made sense, and yet everyone was afraid to laugh now. At the top of the Dominion Tower, Councillor Varnzel stood before a crowd of nobles and soldiers. "The human has corrupted our systems," he shouted. "She carries stolen technology from her extinct world. We will make an example of her." The crowd roared in agreement. For centuries, the Vaeltor had prided themselves on superiority. No one, especially not a human, could defy them. Beside the platform, Lyra stood silent, her hands bound again in energy cuffs. Her face was calm, her eyes lowered. But even restrained, the air around her seemed alive, charged, watchful. Zerath, standing among the scientists, whispered nervously, "She's not resisting, but the systems are reacting to her heartbeat." "Meaning?" another asked. "It means the city itself is listening." Varnzel stepped closer to her. "You, human girl," he sneered, "brought chaos to our world. You tampered with the Dominion core. For that, you will be erased from existence." Lyra slowly lifted her eyes to him. "You mistake cause for consequence." The alien frowned. "Speak clearly. You built your city on the bones of others. You thought no one would remember, but the stars always remember." Her words made the crowd shift uncomfortably. Varnzel slammed his staff on the ground. "Enough, bring the beggar." Two guards dragged the same old alien Lyra had helped in the market onto the stage. He was weak, his breathing shallow. His clothes were torn, his body trembling. Varnzel smiled cruelly. "This is the creature you risked your life for, human. Tell me, was it worth it?" The crowd laughed. The beggar tried to speak, but no sound came. Lyra looked at him softly, her voice calm and clear. "Every act of kindness is worth it." The laughter grew louder. One noble shouted, "Feed him again, human. Show us your mercy." Another added, "Yes, heal him with your pitiful compassion." They mocked her from every direction, their laughter echoing like thunder in the great hall. Zerath clenched his fists. "Stop this madness," he whispered. But no one listened. Lyra took a slow step toward the beggar. The guards didn't stop her. They were too busy laughing. She knelt beside the dying alien just as she had before. The crowd's laughter filled the air again, but when her hand touched the beggar's chest, the laughter stopped. A golden pulse spread across the platform. It was soft at first, like sunlight on glass. Then it grew brighter, sharper. The energy cuffs around Lyra's wrists disintegrated into dust. The entire tower began to hum with deep, resonant sound. Varnzel stumbled back, shouting, What is this?" From the sky above, an ancient voice, mechanical, distant, echoed through every speaker, every screen, every device. "Royal identification confirmed, bloodline, Solon authority, Earth dominion." The sky turned gold. Across the city, every ship, drone, and weapon powered down. Engines went silent. Lights flickered, then stabilized. Not in the Dominion's pattern, but in the shape of a golden circle with wings. Aliens froze in terror. The symbol of Earth, the forgotten crest of humanity, shone above their capital. Zerath whispered, "It's the Royal Command Code." "The entire planet just submitted." Lyra stood up slowly. The beggar opened his eyes, breathing steadily again. His wounds glowed faintly and closed. He looked at her with awe and tears. "Your Majesty," he whispered weakly. The crowd gasped. Varnzel's eyes widened. "Majesty, what are you saying?" The old beggar turned to face him, his voice trembling. "Do you not see? The heir of Earth stands before you." The hall fell into chaos. Some shouted. Some knelt. Others tried to flee. Lyra looked at Varnzel. Her eyes glowed softly gold now, not blazing with anger, but shining with calm power. "You laughed at kindness," she said quietly. "You called compassion weakness. But compassion is what wakes what you cannot control." Varnzel pointed his staff. "Kill her!" he screamed. Dozens of soldiers raised their weapons and then froze, unable to move. Their armor systems locked, their weapons deactivated. Their targeting systems now displayed the same message. Access denied. "Royal Command override." Lyra stepped forward. "I came here to learn, not to rule." "But you left me no choice." The air shimmered around her. From the horizon, strange shapes appeared, dark silhouettes descending through the clouds. Zerath looked up, his voice trembling. Those are ships." Varnzel turned pale. "What ships?" Zerath whispered, "Human ships. Ancient ones. Hundreds of massive warships, black and gold, pierced through the atmosphere, silent as ghosts. They formed a perfect formation over Valtor, their hulls covered in scars from battles long forgotten. A deep voice echoed across the skies. Command recognized. Fleet of the human dominion standing by. Every alien fell to their knees. Lyra raised her hand. The beggar beside her smiled weakly. "You have awakened the legacy, my queen." She shook her head softly. "No, I awakened our responsibility." She looked up at the golden sky, her voice calm and steady. "We do not conquer. We remember." Varnzel sank to his knees, shaking with fear. "What are you?" Lyra turned her gaze on him. "I'm what your ancestors feared," she said quietly. A human who remembers mercy. The skies over Vale Tor burned with gold. Where once silver towers ruled the horizon, now shadows of colossal ships blotted out the suns. Their shapes were terrifying, massive angular vessels scarred by time and war. Yet their movement was graceful, disciplined, almost alive. The aliens below stared in disbelief. Every defense cannon, every shield array, every interceptor drone, all had shut down. The Dominion's proud systems now answered to someone else. On the central platform, Councillor Varngzel trembled. His voice broke. "Deactivate them! Turn the city defenses back online." A technician screamed, "We can't!" All systems rerouted to a foreign control node. "Foreign?" Varngzel shouted. "What control node?" The technician's screen glowed with alien text, mixed with ancient English letters. A single phrase blinked over and over. "Command node active. Royal interface Lyra Solon." Varngzel stumbled backward. No, it's impossible. Humans don't have this kind of power." But Lyra stood calm amidst the chaos, her scarf fluttering in the charged air. Her eyes gleamed like molten stars. Zerath stepped forward slowly, staring at her in awe. "You really are her, the last descendant of the Solon bloodline, the heir of Earth's throne." Lyra's voice was soft, but it carried across the entire platform. "Thrones mean nothing if those beneath them suffer." Her words echoed through the plaza. The golden glow from the sky pulsed once, as if the fleet itself had heard her. Suddenly the old beggar, the one she had saved, stood tall beside her. His rags fell away, revealing armor beneath. Every alien gasped. The armor was human, ancient but gleaming with blue light and gold seals. Lyra turned to him, startled. "Who are you?" The man bowed deeply. "I am Admiral Kale Varin, protector of the royal line. My queen, we have been waiting 5 centuries for your return." Lyra's breath caught. 5 centuries? "Yes," he said, his voice steady. "When the human dominion fell, your ancestors hid your bloodline across the stars. The fleets went silent, awaiting the signal that you just gave." He raised his hand toward the glowing ships above. "And now, the dauntless fleet has awoken," Varngzel screamed, pointing at the admiral. "This is madness. An illusion. You expect us to kneel to a human child?" The admiral's eyes turned cold. "You already have, Counselor. Every system you built rests on the bones of Earth's technology. You just forgot who gave you the stars." The crowd murmured in shock. It was true. Ancient Dominion relics powered most of the galaxy's advanced civilizations. The Vale Tor had built their empire using scavenged human machines, and now those machines had remembered their master. Lyra looked around at the terrified faces. She saw arrogance crumble into fear, pride turn into silence. Yet there was no triumph in her eyes, only sorrow. "I don't want worship," she said softly. "I want peace. The kind my ancestors couldn't find." Zerath fell to one knee. "Then lead them differently. Show them what true power means." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. Then she turned her gaze skyward. "Fleet Command, respond." A deep, resonant voice answered from the heavens. Command acknowledged. "Awaiting orders, Your Majesty. Status?" she asked. "All vessels operational. Weapon systems dormant. Awaiting engagement protocol. Hold positions," she said. "Do not fire. Not unless I command it. Order confirmed. Holding defensive formation." The city shook as the massive ships adjusted their orbit, creating a protective halo above Vale Tor. Light bathed every street, every tower, every terrified citizen below. Lyra raised her voice. "This is not conquest. This is remembrance." She stepped toward the edge of the platform, her golden eyes meeting the sea of alien faces. "You called us weak because we cared. You mocked mercy because it frightened you. But compassion, true compassion, isn't weakness." She paused, her words carrying through every broadcast screen in the city. "It's the strength that outlived every empire before yours." Admiral Varin turned toward her, bowing deeply again. "Your Majesty, the fleet awaits your next command." Lyra looked at him quietly. "Then hear mine, Admiral. No one fires. No one dies. Not today," he hesitated. "But the Dominion," Lyra shook her head. "The Dominion is gone. What we build now must be better." The Admiral's expression softened. "As you command, my queen." Varngzel tried to run, but as he reached the platform's edge, his body froze, paralyzed by his own armor. His weapon clattered to the floor. Lyra looked at him one last time. You could have ruled with kindness. Instead, you ruled with cruelty. Now you'll see how fragile cruelty truly is. He fell to his knees, trembling. Please don't destroy us. Lyra's tone was almost gentle. Destruction is easy. Learning is harder. She raised her hand. The bindings around the other humans in the city dissolved, their collars vanishing. One by one, they stood, free for the first time in generations. Zerath looked up at the sky. The golden fleets moved like silent guardians, reflecting in his eyes. He whispered, "The galaxy will never be the same again." Lyra turned to him. "No, Zerath. It will finally be fair." From orbit, the fleet transmitted one last message to every world within range. The bloodline of Earth has returned. The dauntless fleet stands for peace. Compassion is not surrender. It's humanity. As the twin suns set over Veiltor, the sky shimmered gold one last time. Lyra stood tall on the platform, her scarf fluttering in the soft wind. Around her, both human and alien eyes watched in silence. "The Queen of Earth has risen," whispered the beggar-turned-admiral, and in the heavens above the sleeping weapons of humanity waited, not for war, but for a world finally ready to understand mercy. The twin suns sank behind the towers of Veiltor, and for the first time in centuries, the city knew silence. No engines roared. No guards barked orders. The mighty dominion that once enslaved 100 worlds now knelt before a single human girl. And high above, the dauntless fleet hung like a crown of steel, hundreds of black and gold warships surrounding the planet in quiet orbit. Their weapons were not raised, but their very presence commanded fear and respect. On the great platform, Lyra stood at the edge, her eyes reflecting the golden glow of the ships. She looked neither proud nor angry, only thoughtful. Admiral Varin, the beggar she had once saved, now stood beside her in full armor. His voice was steady, filled with both reverence and pain. 500 years, my queen. We waited in the dark for this moment. The galaxy mocked our name. They called us extinct. Lyra's voice was soft. Then let them see what extinction truly looks like when kindness disappears. Zerath, standing a few paces behind her, lowered his head. The other empires will see this broadcast. They will think you mean to conquer them. Lyra turned to him. Then we must show them something greater. The air shimmered as a fleet-wide broadcast began. Every ship projected her image into orbit, onto the city, and across the interstellar network. Every screen in the quadrant filled with the sight of a young human standing under golden light. Her voice was calm, deliberate yet powerful enough to echo through the stars. To every world that watches this message, I am Lyra Solon, last daughter of Earth. You called us weak. You erased our name from your histories. You built empires from our ruins and mocked our compassion. Her golden eyes lifted toward the heavens. But mercy is not weakness. Mercy is the strength that endures when all else falls. In the command ship HSS Dauntless Prime, fleets aligned in perfect symmetry. Ancient human AIs came online after centuries of sleep. Their voices blended into a deep, unified tone. Royal Command confirmed. Reinstating Earth's communication network. Calibrating star relays, broadcasting across the Orion Arm. In distant sectors, Hellion rulers froze as human signals interrupted. Their news feeds and military channels, a single golden crest, the symbol of Earth's dominion, appeared above every planet once touched by humanity's reach, and across the stars, one phrase spread like a whisper of judgment. Earth remembers. Back on the surface, the Veiltor nobles trembled as the ground shook beneath their feet. Massive structures hidden below the city rose from the depths, old human architecture, long buried and forgotten. Their surfaces gleamed with the same golden light that flowed from Lyra's hands. Zerath stepped back, whispering, "These aren't buildings. They're machines." Admiral Varin nodded. "Defense stations from the first age of expansion. The Dominion built their empire atop them, never realizing what slept beneath." Lyra watched the massive towers lock into place, their lights merging with the orbiting fleet above. "Everything you built," she said quietly, "was born from what you stole. And still we forgive you." Her voice carried through the plaza. Some aliens began to cry. Others fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the strange peace that filled the air. A faint hum spread through the atmosphere. Not a threat, but a signal of awakening. From orbit, the lead ship's AI spoke again. Protocol Dawnfire complete. Planetary harmonics stabilized. Awaiting Queen's directive. Lyra looked at Admiral Varin. What happens if I don't give one? He smiled faintly. Then, my Queen, humanity's legacy will protect this world forever. Without war, without chains. Lyra nodded slowly. Then let it be so. Far across the galaxy, in the Senate halls of the Kareth Empire, diplomats watched the broadcast in terrified silence. One alien ambassador whispered, "The humans were extinct." "Weren't they?" Another replied shakily, "If extinction looks like that, may the stars protect us all." On mining worlds, colonies, and distant stations, enslaved humans looked up at the screens, seeing their flag again for the first time in generations. The blue and gold crest of Earth glowed over their skies, and across those worlds, voices began to whisper the same word, one the galaxy hadn't heard in centuries. Home. Back on Vailtor, Vangsel was dragged before Lyra. His arrogance was gone. His body shook as he knelt. "Please," he begged, "do not destroy us. I will serve." Lyra raised her hand and he fell silent. "You don't understand," she said softly. "We didn't come back to rule. We came back to remind." Her golden light dimmed, and for a moment the air itself seemed to bow. "Your empire forgot what it means to care for the weak. Ours will teach you again, by example, not by force." Zerath spoke carefully. "And if the others attack you, my Queen?" Lyra turned to him, her eyes calm, her tone almost gentle. "Then we will show them what mercy looks like. When defended." A smile crossed the Admiral's face. "You sound like your ancestor, Queen Arya Solon." Lyra's gaze drifted upward. Then maybe her dream wasn't lost after all. The golden light in the sky began to fade, replaced by the soft blue of twilight. But even as night fell, the human fleet stayed in perfect formation, silent guardians above a world that had mocked their kind. In the reflection of the twin moons, the words appeared across the horizon in pale gold light, "The Queen of Earth lives." In every corner of the galaxy, empires held their breath. They all knew the old stories, of the death world that birthed unstoppable survivors, of the species that never gave up, never surrendered, and never forgot. Now those myths had returned in living form, and the galaxy finally remembered why the humans were feared and loved. The dawn over Vailtor came in silence. The key. Sky still shimmered gold from the orbiting human fleet, a sea of ancient ships that moved like patient guardians above the world that once mocked humanity. Below, the streets were filled with quiet faces. The arrogant were now humbled, the enslaved now free, and at the center of the capital, on the same platform where she was once ridiculed, stood Lyra Solon, the queen who never asked for a throne. The twin suns broke through the clouds, bathing her in light. Her long scarf fluttered in the wind as her golden eyes reflected the awakening city. Around her stood Admiral Varin, Zerath, and dozens of former slaves, humans and aliens alike. No one spoke. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Then Lyra raised her voice, calm, clear, steady. "You mocked compassion. You laughed at mercy. But compassion is the one power that never dies." Her words spread through the city's speakers, carried on every signal across the planet. Empires fall, weapons rust, fear fades, but kindness survives everything. The crowd listened. Thousands of aliens who had once sneered at her now stood with bowed heads. Lyra looked at them not with anger, but with something far greater, forgiveness. "You thought mercy made us weak, but mercy is what rebuilt us after the fires. It's what kept us human when the stars turned cold." High above, the human flagship Dauntless Prime relayed her broadcast across the galaxy. Every planet that once belonged to the human dominion heard her voice. Every alien power that once mocked Earth saw her calm face. Her message was simple, but unstoppable. "We are not here to conquer. We are here to remember." In the great hall behind her, Vansel, the counselor who ordered her humiliation, was brought forward in chains. He could not meet her eyes. He fell to his knees. "Please, Queen of Earth, end me quickly. I deserve death." Lyra looked down at him, her expression unreadable. Then she spoke softly. "Death is easy. Living with what you've done is harder. You will rebuild what you destroyed. You will feed those you starved. You will serve life, not power." Vansel trembled, tears falling freely. Why show me mercy?" "Because," she said, It's the only thing your world never taught you." Behind her, Admiral Varen smiled faintly. "Your Majesty, your ancestor would be proud." She too believed mercy was the sharpest weapon of all. Lyra looked at him, then at Zerath. "And yet it's the only one that doesn't kill." Zerath bowed his head. "You've changed everything. Every empire will have to answer for how they treat the weak now." Lyra turned back to the horizon. "Then let that be Earth's legacy. Not fear, not fire, but the courage to be kind." Moments later, the golden light from the sky began to dim. The fleet, still massive and silent, shifted formation. One by one, its engines flared blue. Admiral Varen touched his wrist communicator. "Fleet Command reports readiness, my queen. Where shall we go next?" Lyra looked up at the stars. "Home," she said softly. Zerath frowned. "But Earth?" "It's gone, isn't it?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Planets can die. People don't. Wherever humans stand together, Earth lives again." A hush fell over the crowd. Lyra stepped to the edge of the platform and looked down at the citizens. Humans, aliens, even the smallest children who had watched her rise from nothing. "Remember this day," she said. "Not as the day Earth returned, but the day the galaxy learned what it means to be human." Then she lifted her hand. A single golden signal rose from her palm into the sky. The dauntless fleet answered immediately, their hulls glowing bright one last time. Before slowly ascending through the clouds, the ships vanished into the stars, leaving behind trails of light like silver comets. The people of Vailtor stared upward in silence. Some cried, some bowed, and some simply stood, hands over their hearts, realizing they had witnessed the rebirth of something the galaxy thought was gone forever. Later that night, in the quiet of the palace courtyard, Lyra sat alone beside a pool of still water. The reflection of the stars danced across its surface. Zerath approached quietly. "Your Majesty, why didn't you punish them? They would have done worse to you." Lyra smiled faintly. "Because that's what they expect humans to do, to strike back. But we're more than that." She looked at the stars again. "Mercy is not forgetting pain. It's refusing to pass it on." Zerath bowed deeply. "Then perhaps the galaxy has met its true ruler." Lyra shook her head gently. "No, just a reminder that we still exist." From orbit, the last transmission from Dauntless Prime echoed softly across the stars. "This is the fleet of Earth. The royal bloodline has risen once more. Humanity endures." And far beyond the horizon, lights began to answer. Distant colonies awakening old beacons, lost ships turning toward the signal, survivors whispering the same word again and again, home. As the suns rose again over Vailtor, the golden mark of Earth shimmered briefly in the morning sky, the sign of the Queen of Mercy. The last heir of a world the galaxy could never kill, and from that day forward, no one dared mock a human again, because they remembered her, the girl who helped a beggar and made the stars kneel.